everyone. Welcome to another series of a webinar type like lecture in our YouTube channel, and this will also be available in our FB channel through the effort of our College of Education. Now, in the coming videos following this one, we'll be talking about the theories of communicative competence, the communicative approach, and the phases of teaching the macro skills for the 21st century learners. But before all those topics, you have to be adept with the nature and characteristics of language. All those English teachers out there should really understand the way that the second language learners behave, and in general, what characteristics does each one have in order to learn a language? Vice versa, what characteristics does a language have in order for a teacher to understand how it is being delivered? So, welcome. Please stay tuned and be able to listen very carefully to our lecture. Let us define language. So what is language? Language is commonly defined as a system of arbitrary vocal symbols used for human communication. The keywords in this definition are system, arbitrary, vocal, symbols, human, and communication. Language is a system. A language is made up of interrelated parts or subsystems. These subsystems have to do with either form or meaning. A language has interrelated subsystems of sounds. We call that phonology. And we also have word formation, that's morphology. The subsystems and word order, we call that syntax. There is finite or limited number of sounds in a language which can be combined in particular ways to form units of meaning. Language is arbitrary. It has its own set of phonological, lexical, grammatical convention which differs from any other language. The sound in a language as well as words and their meanings is matter of convention or the result of agreement among the speakers of language. The English sound p, t, and k are aspirated, followed by a sudden release of air at the beginning of stressed syllables, but a Tagalog pa, ta, and ka are not. There's also arbitrariness in vocabulary. Different languages divide the same reality differently. For example, Tagalog dalhin has two equivalent words, take and bring. Halika may also be to come or to go. Arbitrariness in grammar. The simple present tense verbs in English agrees in number with the subject, while in Tagalog it does not. Whatever verb form that we use, it does not even affect the kind of subject you use, even if it is singular or plural in Tagalog. The implication of the arbitrariness of languages is that learning a second language consists primarily in learning to use phonological, grammatical, and lexical conventions different from one's own. Language is primarily oral. Speech is the primary form of language. Take a worldwide look of languages. It reveals that about 3,000 spoken varieties, only a few hundreds are normally written. The unwritten ones are nevertheless languages in the full sense of the term, generally as complex, expressive, and sophisticated as those that have a written form. Written language is only a representation on paper of the orally produced spoken form that the child has already acquired. One naturally must learn first through listening and then imitating the sound until she learns or he learns the language, and when he studies how to write, He learns how to write. That's the only time that he can be able to write down the words that represent the sound, combination of sounds, and each meaning. A language is composed of symbols. All symbols are, by definition, arbitrary, meaningful conventions. The symbols of language are not letters, for a letter is not meaningful itself. Neither are they sounds, for sounds per se have no meaning. The symbols of language are it minimal meaningful units or morphemes, of which there are two in the English word teacher. So the verb teach and the noun forming suffix er. In Tagalog, guro. There is only one. A language as a human activity. Human language is different from animal language in many ways, of course. First, language. The human language is culturally transmitted, while animal language is genetically transmitted. A person learns the language of the community he is in, not necessarily the language of his parents. Animals learn the language of their own species. Animal language does not have the subsystems of sounds and of meaning. Animals do not use language as humans do, to talk not only about the present but also about the past or the future, to argue on a subject, to express opinions, or even to tell lies at will. So human language has different variations, different ways of conveying the meanings. Language is primarily used for communication. The most frequent use of language is for interpersonal communication. Communication between or among individuals. Language helps people to express their thoughts, their feelings, their needs. Sometimes communication takes place in the form of social amenities, such as greetings and leave takings, small talk or at parties or even in public vehicles. But the general rule there is in whatever situation a person may be in, he has to effectively convey his message by using effective communication. Language is complete. A language serves the purpose of the culture of each users. That is, it is completely adequate for the changing needs of each linguistic community. Language completeness is relative to the needs of the individual. While a language continues to be learned throughout life, no person or even learner knows the whole language. Some may know far more than others. For example, a journalist or an editor needs high degree of language control, but a manual laborer may not or may never develop it. It always depends not only on your status but how you are likely exposed in the use of language every day. So those professionals are expected to have higher and sophisticated degree of language control, including vocabulary and grammar, than those who are basically using the language in their practical communication with others, like in business or for those who may be just talking with colleagues. However, one must never stop trying, learning those different ways how to improve one's vocabulary, how to be good in grammar as well. No language is better or worse, more complete or more beautiful than any other language. Filipino, for instance, has different terms for rice. Example, we have palay, bigas, malagkit, binlid, pinipig, sinaing nilugaw, and tutong. English, on the other hand, does not have equivalents for this because its speakers have no need for them. We, Filipinos, even in some Asian countries, have different terms referring to the same thing but probably with different category. A language is creative and productive. I think this is very true for those composers, for those who became essayists, or for those who became writers, such as novelists or short story writers. A native speaker can create sentences which he may have heard or read before because he internalized or learned the use of his language. Language creativity implies that the second language learner should be encouraged to produce much as he is able within the language forms in his repertoire. A language changes. So vocabulary is the most changeable part of a language. Words may be pronounced differently as English knife, which has dropped the syllable K. Old forms may be replaced like the pronouns thou, thy, thee, and thine, which have given way to you, your, and yours, or words from other languages become part of the lexicon of a language like guru, abracadabra, or bundok. So as time goes by, it's understood that different words arise and incorporated in our lexicon. So for example, the word bundok, this came from the Philippines. And there are even other ways that we consider the origin of certain word. Like it may be from the person, like Florissant from Agapito Flores. And we also have Armalay from Armando Lite. And we also consider those that came from literature. Probably you have heard of this, that when you refer to a beautiful person, you refer to Venus. If a person is a traitor, then you can say that he is a traitor or Judas. Now, there are also words that may have been originated. Originated from different places like Japan, including tsunami, parka from Russia, I guess. And then we also have the Eskimo, and then we also have the house that's like a cottage made of ice, igloo. Okay, and there are other words in which you can think of. And if you're going to just go on to the details, you can research on that. Then you'll find out that our vocabulary keeps on changing by those different terms or terminologies in one place, so that you can understand each other and you may not be shocked. There may be some terms that are acceptable in their places, but in your place it's not. For example, when you say borrachero in the Tagalog region, it's not acceptable, it's unbecoming, but in Bicol region, that would only mean a person who keeps on drinking wine. The same way with those in Rizal, like matalab in Tanay, when you say matalab, it means not sharp. But in Pililla onward, it means sharp. So definitely they are two opposite. So just remember all these characteristics and nature of language, so that you'll be able to take note that as a teacher of the second language, you have to be creative enough to deliver the lesson and encourage the learners to fully learn the new language and practically feel that it's part of their everyday living, so that practicing it will never be a problem. So with this, be ready with the other topics that will be continued later on. Thank you very much. Please